A surprising motion by the president where he asked the CEC for the official list of MPs has raised many questions, including if the head of state is about to take any steps towards a parliamentary dissolution. It seems that Albania has missed the chance to open up membership talks this year, while diplomats and EU officials have confirmed to the Reuters agency that this September there is a chance for North Macedonia. Albanians have spent more money during the first 3 months of this year for traveling abroad, and according to the Bank of Albania, expenditures in tourism have increased by 7% compared to the same period of time last year. It's 6 o'clock on Saturday, the 15th of June, 2019. Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to RTV Ora's English edition. My name is Oliver, bringing you the only daily update of the local Albanian news, translated into English. Up first tonight with a letter directed to the Central Election Commission where he asked to specify the current numbers of MP mandates on the basis of electoral districts. It seems that the president has taken the first step towards the possibility of the parliament's dissolution. The debate is focused on the areas that the Constitution can give to the president and if the current political situation justifies this act. The Constitution provides only 2 cases where the president can dissolve the assembly. Article 96 gives him the right to undertake this act only when the assembly fails to elect the new prime minister. Another case is provided in Article 104, which states the prime minister has the right to submit to the assembly a motion of confidence in the Council of Ministers. In case the motion is voted by less than half of all members of the assembly, the prime minister, within 48 hours of voting the motion, asks the president of the republic to dissolve the assembly. These are the 2 articles which allow the president to dissolve the parliament, but in the political situation, which has stagnated progress in Albania and sowed chaos in the electoral system, the president may refer to Article 64.1, which states the assembly consists of 140 MPs elected with a proportional system with a multi-name electoral areas. Currently, the Albanian parliament has 123 MPs, while the opposition has withdrawn from its mandates and their seats are now taken by new MPs. This may be exactly the moment the president declares the parliament as non-representative because 17 electoral zones do not have an MP. The Constitution in Article 70 says the members of parliament represent the people, but the exact interpretation of this is still called into question. Until a decision, the president's position remains unclear. Until now, the fact is, the head of state calls the current assembly illegitimate and has not hesitated to publicly express it. Next up, despite the many attempts to clean their reputations and enter the EU, neither Albania nor North Macedonia will receive the approval by the Council of Ministers of the European Union on June 18th for the opening of accession negotiations. However, North Macedonia is likely to win the European Union's support to initiate membership talks later this year, diplomats say. But its Balkan neighbor, Albania, faces a staunch opposition in France, Germany, and the Netherlands. Backed up by a number of EU governments and the European Commission, Albania and North Macedonia have hoped that the European ministers would give the go-ahead to membership talks at the meeting next Tuesday in Luxembourg. That would have cleared the way for approval by EU leaders at the summit in Brussels on June 20th of 2021. But neither country will be given the green light, diplomats and EU officials stated, even though 13 EU countries, including Italy and Poland, and the European Council's President Donald Tusk, and the Commission have publicly called for the formal negotiations to begin. Now, the latest agreement is to reach a deal among EU governments, but in September, only for North Macedonia, it's also set to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization in 2020. North Macedonia has a good chance for EU membership talks, given the historic resolution of its name issue, one senior EU official said, referring to a decades-old dispute with Greece that blocked its path to the EU and NATO alliance. This means that Albania and North Macedonia will be part of the integration path, despite the calls from Brussels to see the geostrategic effect. North Macedonia has a good chance of opening membership talks, especially after reaching the name agreement with Greece, while Albania is seen with suspicion by many European governments, and the future does not look promising, a diplomat told Reuters. But Albania is still a big issue for some governments. It is not looking so promising, the official said. Despite being a NATO member country, Albania is seen as one of Europe's most corrupted countries. And according to the United States and the European Union officials, it has made little progress in fighting corruption and money laundering, despite the process of vetting that has resulted with the dismissal of some judges and prosecutors. Although exports to Kosovo have experienced a significant increase of around 52% during the first 4 months of this year, current barriers are calling into question the economic collaboration between the two countries. The head of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Nikolin Yaka, urged the government to react as soon as possible and to remove barriers that endanger trade between Albania and Kosovo. According to Yaka, if measures are not taken as soon as possible, Kosovo will impose the same tariffs on Albanian businesses, which would hurt exports. Since we are in the tourist season and the biggest weight in the country is held by the Kosovar tourists, the head of the Chamber of Commerce appealed for an ease in traffic. Exports of products made in Albania have declined in total, but trade with Kosovo has grown about 100 million euros over the past 4 years. Albanian citizens prefer to travel more abroad. That's according to the newest data. Within the months of January, February, and March of this year, it turns out that they spent 272 million euros on trips abroad. If you compare that to the same period of time from the previous year, it results that the profits have increased by about 7%. Even though it was winter, foreign tourists in the country have grown and contributed to the domestic economy about 348 million euros. Annual revenue growth was influenced by the increase in the number of foreign visitors by 5%. But expectations are expected to be slimmer in the coming months as many tourists have canceled their reservations due to the country's political crisis. This fact has been officially accepted by the institutions as well as by the touristic agencies, which means that the revenues gained from tourism will diminish. During January to March, 1.2 million Albanian citizens traveled abroad, an increase of 12.4% compared to the same period of time in the previous year. Meanwhile, tourists who came to Albania have mainly traveled from other countries in the region, the majority being from Kosovo, Macedonia, and Greece. However, it is worth pointing out that during this period, there has been an increasing influx of tourists coming from the United States, Switzerland, and Poland. Travel services were closed with a positive balance of 76 million euros with a 2% decrease in annual terms. The departures by Albanian and foreign nationals from the country during March of 2019 total 728,000 individuals, marking an increase of 21.7% compared to the same period of time of the previous year. $361 tons of products have been blocked by the National Food Authority during the months of March, April, and May. Pamela Ravadani, the NFA's coordinator, warned that blocking materials has not been safe for consumers. 24,673 inspections were carried out in the second quarter of this year, issuing 91 fines. During the touristic season, the controls will be reportedly intensified. In 2018, 463 fines were imposed by about 11,000 inspections carried out by the National Food Authority. And finally, tonight, underwater cultural heritage is being threatened by treasure hunters. This is according to the chair of the Scientific and Technical Advisory Board of Underwater World Heritage of UNESCO, Orion Tare. During an activity in Durrës, Tare requested the documentation of this heritage, stating, "Let's start with a fisherman who could accidentally damage the ancient ships, or with those taking parts from the World War I or World War II boats, or even with the state institutions that have no idea what they're dealing with and demolish them. It should be understood that they have great value not only for history, but for underwater tourism. For researchers, Jin Gould and underwater cultural heritage can be an extraordinary asset for Albanian tourism." He stated, "From what I have seen in Turkey, Spain, and Italy with the contribution of the internationals to their museums, there are endless materials. Even in Durrës, there are museums, but not from the underwater world. There is still very little heritage." Present at this activity was also the archaeologist Neritan Ceka, who emphasized the study of underwater cultural heritage. Ambassadors in Albania, Spain, Croatia, Italy, Russia, and Japan, as well as some representatives from the Albanian government, were present in the presentation of the underwater world. Discoveries are fantastic. There are a large number of antique submerged ships. There are hundreds of ancient vases starting from the 12th century BC until the 5th century AD, said Ceka. And that's the news across the country today. Thank you so much for watching our English edition this evening, and be sure to join us again every Monday to Saturday at 6 p.m. for the latest news from Albania. Once again, on behalf of Ora News, thank you and have a great weekend.